like a language, freezing like a prayer. The body knows the exit when the mind can't bear. I thought it was my fault for going quiet, for going still. They didn't have to break me, just bend the light enough, leave a shadow in my chest where breathing felt too much. And I stayed inside the silence. I stayed inside my skin. Not gone, just buried, still here.
Welcome to QSJ Radio's Mad Law, Digging Up the Underground. I'm your host, Traffic Light. This is QSJ Radio. We dig into the underground to uncover independent artists, creative voices, and the stories that shape the music you don't hear anywhere else. Today, we're sitting down with the artist, songwriter, creative storyteller, and lifelong dreamer, Jennifer. I already messed it up.
Kropke.
Kropke. Okay, thank you, Jen.
Yes, of course.
Jennifer's journey isn't the typical music industry story. Before there was recordings, there were poems. Before there was a studio, there were years of thoughts, emotions, and experiences waiting to find a voice. Her new single, Still Here, transforms deeply personal experiences into a powerful message about survival, healing, and finding your way back to yourself. Beyond the music, Jennifer's stories touches on motherhood, dance, returning to college late, as she says, but whatever, we'll talk about that. And what happens when you decide to pursue a dream long after many people think the window has closed. Today, we are going beyond the music itself and talking about resilience, reinvention, and the courage it takes to choose yourself. Jennifer, welcome to QSJ Radio.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm here to tell the people about your story. And it's a big one. It's a big one. And if you hear somebody talking about it, you kind of be like, damn, bro, like, where'd you get all that info? But anyway, your website, if you guys didn't know, Jennifer how do you say it? I'm gonna mess this up a lot.
Kropke, like think like crop, like a crop in the field, and then key, like you're turning a key in a door.
So Kropke, JenniferKropke.com. Your website mentions that Still Here, the single, began life as a graphic poem years before it became a song. What was that moment when you realized that this piece needed to become music rather than stay on the page?
Sure. So it was about 2 years ago. I was sitting there at my house, and I actually found a old notebook with a bunch of poems I had written in like the 2010s. And when I found this book of poems, I got inspired to find a bunch of my old poetry. And I knew I had a ton of stuff from when I was 14, 15, 16, somewhere in my parents' attic. And so I actually went to my parents' house and I said, Mom, I need to go into the attic and I need to get out, my old bins. And she was like, there's a lot of stuff in there. And, I was like, I need it. So she ended up going and helping me get it out. And I spent some time at home going through and reading them. And there were a few that just really stuck with me and were just like, these aren't just stories that I feel like affected me, obviously, because I wrote it, but stories and poems and moments that I feel like so many people are going through in the world today. And I just felt like, why not share it and get it out there? And so that's kind of how it started.
And if you guys didn't get it, some of these things are kind of classic writings for yourself, right? So you wrote that the original work came from a very personal experience, but the song became more metaphorical and universal. Now, that is almost difficult for somebody to find a way to balance telling your truth but also protecting your peace. How did that come about for you?
Sure. So Endless Powers of Me, and Still Here are both from poems that I've written, right? But Endless Powers of Me is very much almost word for word what I wrote back then. Whereas Still Here was a poem that I wrote that I completely rewrote to be a song because I didn't want it to be an exact telling of my story. I wanted it to kind of be, like you said, more relatable. Um, Now, the poem that I wrote, Still Here, originally was about sexual assault, and going through
Right.
sexual assault. And that was something that I experienced in my teens. It wasn't something that I talked about with many people, with friends, with family. A lot of people are probably hearing this for the first time right now. um, but it's something that I went through, and it's something that I wrote about. And I felt like, especially nowadays, given social media, so many more women are willing to go out there and tell their story, even if it happened, 10, 15, however many years ago. And I just felt like I wanted to get not the exact story out there, but the feelings that you deal with
Yeah.
afterwards, right? And that's where Still Here comes in. It's kind of a telling of what it feels like after those moments, and what it feels like, 10 years later. Because when you go through something like that, it's, not just the day of or the week after, it's, how you feel as a mother 15 years later, So that's kind of how that song came about.
Big shout out to everybody listening. If you guys didn't know, I gotta practice the name, okay? Jennifer Kropke is with
Yes.
us. Oh, we did it. Third time is a charm. And shout out to my haters already in the chat. No, they're not my haters. They're my biggest supporters. Uh, thank you, Eddie, and everybody. So we have some people listening from your area, Chicago, and we have some people listening from the Netherlands. So wide demographic, and if you guys are shy in the chat, it's okay. You could say whatever. I'm sure they want to know that you're here. Many artists talk about writing as like a therapy. It's like almost cliche. It comes out of people. But you recently wrote that songwriting didn't just help you express the past; it changed how you remembered it. Okay. That is beyond me. For me, like I feel like and we spoke in the back and you're like, this dude, he has a lot going on, right? But but you could relate to it from your point of view, right? And I can't write it down no more, because I feel like I'm not even listening to myself. No one's listening to me, and things like that. So for me, when I read this, you said it changed the way that you remembered it. What was that process to teach you? Because I feel like that was like one of the major parts about healing. Kind of like, okay, you know what I mean? That
Sure.
happened. Not kind of like forgetting about it, but it kind of like, okay, that happened. That was that was back in that was back in, I think I could say this, right? That was back in 19 no, anyways, I could say that. That was back in 19 something. That wasn't in 2000 something, right? So, or if it was that, it was then. What was that process like to teach you about healing?
Think for me, when I was writing a lot of my songs, whether it was about something deep like Still Here, or whether it was about, a past relationship, or, my family dynamics, or, like I said, um, there's been a lot of things that I've gone through in my life growing up that have given me perspective, right? So I come from an amazing family. My mom and dad are great people who taught me hard work ethic. My dad's a truck driver, my mom's a teacher. Um, and it was just them and my brother and me. But they have huge families, right? And I was around all of them a lot growing up, and some of them, dealt with some alcoholism. So I got to have some perspective at a very young age about addiction. And that really shaped how I built relationships in my early teens. And so when you're a teenager, and even in my early 20s, I spent a lot of time putting blame on, my past for the situations I was in present, right? Oh, I went to that party and that happened to me because I, wanted to get away from this situation. Or,
Yeah.
hey, I was only in the relationship that was toxic for this long because I watched, this happen when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of blame on people in my life for situations that I was in, right?
Yeah.
And then as I was writing these songs over the last couple of years and taking these poems and transforming them, my perspective totally changed on so many of those things, right? I was able to see like um I don't want to say an appreciation, right? Because there's certain things you can't really
Yeah. Yeah.
appreciate.
Yeah. You can't.
um
No.
but
You
but
don't. You don't high five the bad times, right?
I think there's an understanding, right? There's an understanding of, yes, this happened. Um, and here's where I am now with it, right? And what have I learned because of going through these things that has led me to be a stronger person? Or what knowledge do I have now that I can help someone who maybe doesn't have that knowledge, who has been through something similar, right? And that's where I feel like the shift kind of happened, right? So I'm starting to look at these things as not the end of my life, but really the start of me starting my life in a better direction and sharing it with other people.
I don't know about you, but that is that's a like, wait, hold on. I hope I haven't been doing this for this long, right? Because I can only imagine the like the annoying conversations that were coming out of my mouth because I was stuck in the past without realizing the lessons I was actually learning. Everybody else's fault is not my own. After a while, you have to say, like, yo, I went to there. I bugged out because I thought that there was some sort of healing, or not even healing, but like there was going to be some sort of like everybody goes through this in the beginning of their relationship. No, no, they don't. Now you realize that as no, you don't. But I do got one thing that you probably took out, even though you were writing this, even when you were seeing these things. There's also a title that you have now that you hold strong, and is your mom. And that title also makes you look at things and say, okay, that little thing that everybody says, if you talk to your younger self, well, you got a few of them, right? Well, I got a few of them. You got like two of them. And so now you got to really change that up, because if they go through that, you do not want them to have the same intention that you did. And I think that's also something there too, because I know as a dad, as a dude, I always wanted to be like, part of the clique. I was never part of the clique. I seen a whole bunch of my kids struggle with that. And I'm like, you don't need those people. You know what I'm saying? All you need is whatever it is that makes you happy. And if more friends is what makes you happy, then I've been telling my kids friends ain't real for a long time. Like I've been saying that, and they look at me like, come on, dad, you crazy? Like people need each other. And I'm like, yeah, but that's temporary. You'll know who's really a friend, and after a while, they're not called friends; they're called family. So you'll realize that. But anyways, as a mom, how has your definition of success changed compared to what success meant before you had children?
Well, that's such a great question because I've experienced motherhood in two completely different ways with my kids, right? So my son I had when I was 19. I was very young. I was still living in my childhood home with my parents and my brother. Um, and I was going to college full time and bartending and serving tables and running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Um, so that
Bro,
was
you was literally that's small town stuff, bro. I swear. That's like
yeah,
small
it
town
was
stereotype. It's crazy. But go ahead.
yeah. It was a lot. So,
Wow.
I went through that with my son, and, I was very lucky, like I said, to have my mom who worked in childcare and helped me with him. And, I couldn't have done it without her. But my experience with my daughter has been very different, right? I had her during COVID. So we were all home. Um,
I'm
there was
sending
nowhere to
prayers to
go.
you. Sending prayers to
There
you.
was nothing
Oh
to
my
do.
God. You got a
I
COVID
went
kid?
from,
No.
yeah,
Oh my God. What did
I
we
know.
eat? What did we do?
I don't know.
But you know what?
I don't
She's in
know.
dance and I've seen her and she's doing outstanding. So you know what? Shout out to that. But go ahead.
She is. She's definitely got that COVID energy
Oh
for
my
sure.
gosh,
And she's a
bro.
Leo. So if you could imagine,
I'm
She's
not good
got
with the signs thing. When is that time frame?
so Leos are like they're very a little vain, they love the mirror, they love to be the center of
Oh,
attention.
you know what? They
So
see mom doing it because mom found her confidence. Let's get
yes,
serious. Cheers to
absolutely.
that. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. Yes.
This is Monster, by the
Uh,
way, guys. Don't. It's too early for all that.
but yeah, being a mom totally changed my
Yeah.
perspective on everything, right? I mean, especially now, right? Because like I said, when I became a mom at 19, 20, I thought I knew what it was, right? But now I really know what it is,
Mm.
right? And now I can look at it totally different. Like when I had my daughter, there's so many things I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, with my first. And I think a lot of us do that even if we don't have children young, right? We do something with our first and then we have our second and we're like, yeah, that didn't work the first time. So we're gonna switch that up and try something different. But one thing with both of my children that really changed me was just how I see myself, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're just living for you, it's so much easier to be like, these things don't matter, right? Like, whatever, it's no big deal. If I don't wash my hair tomorrow, it's not going to bother me none, right? But it's different when you have little people that are relying on you. And the thing you realize as you grow into your parenting is that everything matters when they're looking at you, right? It matters when they see you sad. It matters when they see you stressed. All of those feelings, they feel them, right? And that's something I know as somebody who's very empathic and very emotional. I felt all of my parents' feelings and all of my family members' feelings growing up. So I think that changed everything. It just made me think of how important it is to really be honest with myself so that I could be happy, right? Because my happiness leads to their happiness.
I want to believe that, but I don't. Because they're gonna. Oh, I want to believe that, but I don't. Because they make these weird decisions, man. I just.
You know what? There's something about 2026 in the water. My son's 17. I have a 17-year-old.
Oh,
I don't understand half the words that come out of his mouth on most days. So
yeah.
there's a lot going on with these kids nowadays that has nothing to do with us. The world is a very trying place right now. And I know, like, for my family specifically, like, we have a lot of people, we have Black, white, Asian,
Yeah.
Hispanic, gay, straight. We have lots of different people in our family. And with, the state of the United States specifically right now, it's a hard place to be. It's a hard world to live in. It's not like it was when we were growing up and the world was easier.
I feel like there was like something like something. I don't want to say bigger than us. Something happened because I really thought like heal the world, make it a better place. We were done. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like we were good. And shout out to MJ and all the stuff that he was trying to like tell us. But even when somebody was trying to heal the world, they crucified him, for being
Right.
for being that peaceful, which is horrible. Look, I wanna if you guys are wondering why we're so focused on the parenting thing, a lot of this has to do with her creativity and her music. Because now you guys probably heard us talking about the I got a COVID kid, okay? And let me tell you, I don't want to put him on meds, but for society to deal with him, I had to. You know what I mean? Like,
I
and that's the and
understand.
that's
I
the
work in childcare, so
that's the craziest. Look, he's just give him a longer gym. You know what I'm saying? Give him longer gym time. Give him, like he's a very big helper. I really saw some adorable stuff. I know he has a heart in there, but man, is he a dick? Like I don't, I'm tell you, and they'd be like, "Well, I wonder where they got his from." Like, no, that's different. That's a different kind of person there. But anyways, I don't want to blame myself for everything. So we want to make sure that people understand we're not having like a mom dad conversation. A lot of this comes into the creativity and finding oneself because also there had to be something that happened where it had put you back into school and probably most of it was watching the kids and their next decisions and we'll talk about that here in a sec. What I want to do here is I got introduced to the endless powers of me, and you told me earlier that some of these songs are coming from a teenage, like, person, whoever that person was. But this right here, this song right here, it took me like I'm like the only guy in my neighborhood that loves doing my lawn that I feel like I'm doing a music video at the same time. And I'm listening to this song and I'm going, and I'm like, there's no way. Like, and I just found out today that this is something from a pastime. Like, man, tell me something about this song before we introduce this to reintroduce
Sure.
this to our audience.
Sure. So when I was 15, 16 years old, I was in a relationship with a boy, and it was not healthy. And when I got out of that relationship, and I mean truly out of it, right? Takes some times. Takes a couple
Truly,
times of leaving
truly out of it.
before you actually do.
Truly out of
So
it. Yo. Okay, those are like visits that had to stop being frequent, right? Like,
right.
cheers
So
to that.
once we were truly gone, right? Like cut the cord, block the number, it's all done. That's when I wrote this. And it was really just about finding me again, right? I don't know. I spent a lot of that relationship investing in the wrong things, right? So when I was younger, I watched my parents, who were together since they were 18, go through a lot of stuff together, but they stuck it out. They stayed together, and I think that really taught me, well, made me think in my teens, like, hey, I got to make this work, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's certain things that you shouldn't make work, right? If someone's calling you out of your name all the time, if someone is willing to put their hands on you, these are things that are not tolerable, right? But you don't know that when you're 15 and you've never been in a relationship before. So when I was finally out of it, and I was, dating and hanging out with my friends, and I kind of saw myself from the outside looking in for the first time, these lyrics just started falling out of me. And it came out as a poem at first. And it was just about, you know, taking my power back, seeing that even though I had been through some of these things that made me feel really small, I was still here. My bones were still solid. I still had flesh on my body, and I could still move on with my life and take my power and put it in other things.
Here is The Endless Powers of Me by Jennifer Kropke. Kropke. I gotta edit myself later. Anyways, shout out to her listen. This is QSJRadio.com.
If I could, I'd fly away. Soar my wings beyond this place. Leave the hollow rooms behind. Leave no shadow, leave no trace. If I could, I'd disappear. Turn invisible to pain. Slip between the cracks of voices. Never feel them again. But I am flesh, I am bone, standing here alone. If I had endless powers on me, I'd set the sky on fire. Burn away the hands that held me down. Lift myself up higher. I'd breathe out the flames of restoration. Let the broken world collapse. If I had endless powers of me, no one could ever take me back.
One of the craziest things about this song is the resemblance of what's going on the internet right now. First of all, shout out to this song. What? When I'm talking about like, I just feel it, and then I'm like, boom. I think I introduced it to my kid one time. I'm like, yo, that sounds fire, right? It's like, yeah. I was like, man, but what is it? Is it real? Is it not? You understand? So,
Yeah.
what is this song? Like, what is it production wise? Is it 100%, 85%? What's going on? Because I know this is like, the, tell me about the song, production wise.
So my songs came from like I said, from my poetry originally, right? So how did I get them into where they are today? So I probably would have started releasing music 15 years ago if I was rich, right? But it takes a lot to release music. You need marketing, you need a studio to record in, you need mixers, you need masters, you need producers, engineers. There's a lot of things that go into making music. Um, and one of the things that has enabled me to be able to get my music out there is AI, and I know it's a taboo topic, especially in the world of music, right? Because there is this nuance of it's taking away jobs from people, which is a hard thing, right? Because we're human beings, and that's a hard thing. But at the same time, it's also giving people the tools that they need to be able to get their stuff out there. So when I look at what I've produced, there are tools that I use in order to get my backtracks. I can't pay for beats. I can't, go out there and produce beats myself. I wish I was a master beat maker, but that's not where my skill set is. So I've been able to use these AI tools in order to get the backtracks. And then what I do is I go in and I take these songs that I wrote as poems and I rewrite them. I take the lyrics, that's all me, 100%. And then I take those written lyrics and I put a melody behind them. That's all me again. And then I take that and I put them into this wonderful AI tool, and it gives me a backtrack. And then I play with those, right? I take the backtrack that AI makes me and I'll say, nah, I don't like this part, or this doesn't match, or I'll change my melody to match, and then I'll take those two things and kind of bring it together. So percentage wise, I would say 40-60, right? Because
40,
I feel like the
60,
voice
who's
is me.
winning that? Okay, the voice is you.
The voice is me, the
Okay.
lyrics are me, right?
Okay.
So that's a big part. But the backtrack that you hear, the instrumentation, that's AI, right? So I have to give that 40%
so
to
then
AI.
that's fine, because that's basically like, so you created the beat based on what it is that you wanted it to go off of. But if somebody else would have put that together, that would have cost thousands,
Yeah.
and whatever.
And I own it, right? So I did copyright all my music. Everything's through BMI. So I made sure to take this and make this mine. So that way, because the AI tools are usable by anybody. So if somebody else goes out there and wants to make their own beat or do whatever, I want to make sure they're not getting the same thing that I got, right? So I did make sure to cross my T's and dot my I's so that they're officially mine, right? So the lyrics, the instrumentation, that together. And that's kind of where the scary part of AI comes in, right? Because you're like, well, who owns this then?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because then that's where you have to get into making sure, the lyrics are 100% yours. The sound is yours. Those things are stuff that you can't. Yes, when it comes to putting it in Apple Music or Spotify, they're going to
Yeah.
ask you, who's the singer, who's the producer, where did this come from? But AI has also given us a lot to put music out there and get these ideas out there, and I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful for the opportunity.
So I'm gonna tell you, like, the voice on point. And guys, I had her sing the ABCs for a mic check earlier, and she sung them, and I had to tell her to stop at G because I was like overwhelmed. So the voice is real, guys. Okay, the voice is real. Oh my! I had to get that out there because I was like so confused because I'm hearing so much come to me, and there's just these things that seem unhumanly possible. We've only seen a few people, of course, in our lifetime, reach those, heights, plateaus, hold that together, and things like that. But yeah, man, shout out to you for that because, man, a lot of people won't be honest about that. Yeah, I own everything. Shout out to my masters. And next thing you know, it's like, And the end of the song, it goes, "Purchase your beats today." You know, what the fuck are they talking
Absolutely.
about?
Absolutely.
Purchase your beats. Anyways, let's get back here. So, dance is a big deal. It seems like
Dance is huge.
it's
So
just
dance is actually where my love of music started. My mom was awesome enough to put me in dance classes when I was 3 years old, and I just fell in love with it. I took dance classes all the way through high school. I was on dance teams in high school. I did poms, orchestras, competitive dance, all the fun stuff.
that's not fun stuff.
Um,
That's
oh,
drama stuff.
oh man, for me, it was some of the best memories of my life. I'm not gonna lie. I
Oh
don't have
my
many
god.
girlfriends. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm very busy
Yeah.
lady. But some of the best girlfriends I've ever had in my life were from those years,
You
from those
know,
dancing years.
listen, and I
It's
bring
that
this.
artistic vibe, man.
I
They're
bring.
just cool
I
people.
bring this up because I have a brother that, he had like a midlife crisis and started dancing salsa. So he started going to these congresses and stuff. And so I have no idea what these are. So from what I know, like, I heard you say some cons and stuff like that. So it's like you practice to go perform, right? So if there's no performing going on, it's a waste of, whatever it is you're doing, right? So he's got this group. He's getting his stuff together. He goes to these things, and these things always have like the performance day, or they have like a workshop, or they have stuff going on, and then they have like these mingling kind of times where I don't know if they do that with dance, but you kind of have like this meet and greets and stuff like that going on and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, cool, boom. But when I was over there, I was like, man, this is like there has to be like a bunch of behind the scenes crap going on because this is way too many people. And like you're saying, it's like, yeah, I wasn't part of that. I had my real good friends there. But I'm like, man, like I have one of the kids have like a friend that's in dance where they do cheerleading, and that's very different, right? I'm assuming it's not the same, right? Like the dance.
Not the same, but multiple muscles being used the same
Yeah,
way.
well, yeah, that definitely, definitely, but yeah, behind the scenes of that scene is like crazy for me. So I always look at things like that, like how are they put together? Who's running it, directing, stuff like that. I know that nothing comes like from the first stage performance. There's a lot of practicing and stuff like that. So I never looked at anything like, because I know that if I see something and I say, yeah, I could do that. Well, and I have no experience doing that. I'm already like setting myself up for failure because you have to know the backstories of what's going on here. Not everybody's life story, but how long did it take for them to choreograph that and put that together and go into the thing? How much money did it take for that dance studio to actually get involved into this? Because that also takes the stuff. Um, because I know as you grow and you realize that the dance thing wasn't just the parents dropping you off and going to the studio, you start realizing, oh, this costs a lot of money, right? So,
Oh yeah.
but it does build a lot of confidence in boys and girls and things like that, and definitely brings a lot of team effort for those who care about the team because they die off after a while. But Dan's been part of your life, creativity, identity. Do you see the similarities between the movement and songwriting? Are there emotions that you learn to express physically before you learn to put them in lyrics?
Absolutely. So what's actually funny is when I when I was in college, so in high school I did a little bit of choreography, but it was very few and far between. When I got to college, I started working under my artistic director at Northeastern. Her name is Venetia Stifler. And she is an amazing choreographer who works for Concert Dance Incorporated downtown Chicago. She also works for Ruth Page Center for the Arts. She's an incredible human being. And I really got the chance to study under her and started choreographing, creating my own dances. And I did a whole bunch of different pieces, but one of my favorite pieces I ever did was called Dope by Lady Gaga. And I don't know if you know that
I
song, if
do.
you're familiar with it.
I do. Come on.
But
Let's get serious.
that yeah, right. You gotta know Gaga, right? But
I
that
don't. I
song
gotta retire.
specifically,
But go ahead.
But that song specifically was, had to do with addiction. And I put together this piece where I was dancing, jumping off a chair. I had a blindfold on for the entire dance. And so, and when I started doing my writing, rewriting these poems and turning them into songs, the metaphors, right, that you put into choreography and the metaphors that I ended up putting into a lot of my songwriting, that's where a lot of the similarity came from, right? Because I want to tell a story just like I'm telling a story when I'm choreographing, but I don't want it to be, I'm knocking on a door, I'm saying hello to a
Yeah,
friend,
like
I'm
not
giving
so
someone a hug.
obvious. Yeah, not so obvious.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And that's kind of where I feel like my dance experience and my choreography experience really dealt me a good hand when it came
Wow.
to my songwriting.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that kind of dancing. You're talking about like when you're flying into somebody's arms and then
Oh yeah,
and then
yeah. I
and
mean,
then
I did.
and then they miss you, right?
Yeah,
The intention is I trusted you. And where the fuck you at?
right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sorry, but
No, but that's exactly it. It's that kind of feeling for sure.
oh my God. Big shout out to everybody listening, tuning in to QSJRadio.com. Home of the Unsigned Artist. Jennifer Kropke here talking to us. I want to talk about something that intimidated you late in your life, but I also want to find out that experience and what surprised you about it the most. So you went back to college in your 30s. You're not saying late or mid, so we'll just keep that out of there. Which when it's super intimidating for people. Personally, I went to college late too, but I also had this military life in between. So I basically put my life on pause. And so when I went back, I was kind of like feared. I know you have some fears. What did that look like and experience? And then what did it surprise you? What were you surprised about the most when you went?
Sure. So I originally started going to Northeastern in 2008, right when I graduated college. And then, like I said, I had my son in 2009, and I went part-time to college until 2015. So I went to
That's a
school for
long part-time gig.
a very long time. And at the time, my intention was I was going to double major in dance and physical education, K through 12, with a minor in health, right? So the double major is a lot of credits. That's why I was going part-time for so long. But in 2015, I showed up to the financial aid office and they were like, yeah, you have too many credit hours. We can't give you any money. And, at the time, my son was like 7, 8 years old. He was in, primary school already. And I just couldn't afford to pay to continue going to school and to take care of my family. So at that point, I had to make a choice, and I made the choice to get a couple full-time jobs and start, really putting my foot down in my home life. And that led me to so many different things. I worked in finance. I worked in benefits. I was a server, a bartender. I
Okay.
worked a billion different jobs. And so I really feel like my full circle moment, that brought me back was after COVID. I had my daughter,
Okay.
and that was kind of the moment where I was like, I need to go back to school. But I didn't know what that looked like, right? I was like, I haven't been to school in so long. I don't know which classes still count, which ones don't. And I definitely didn't want to go back and have to take a billion classes because I had already gone for like 10 years.
Yeah,
I'm schooled out at this point. But I ended up talking to a friend of mine who I'm going to shout out right now. His name's Andre Bellos. He's an amazing human. He's an actor, a musician, a philanthropist. He's just a great human being overall. And I was talking to him, and he's a year older than me. I'm not going to say his age, but he's doing amazing things right now. He's, was in Chicago Med and Chicago Fire, and he's doing all of these amazing acting opportunities. And he's like, it doesn't matter how old you are. You're 30. So what? Go back to school. Do what you want to do. Take care of yourself. And so I ended up just going to Northeastern and sitting down with an advisor, and they were like, you have so many credit hours. You could do one capstone class and graduate with a bachelor's of arts degree. And I was like, are you serious? And they were like, yeah. And so I was half mad because I was like, why the hell did I wait this long? Because I could have had it this whole time, right? But then the other part of me was just like, maybe this is the time, maybe this is the moment of everything coming together. I'm going back to school, I'm writing my music, I'm releasing my music, so that's why we're here.
You know what's crazy? That reminded me of this thing. Like, I don't like living life by the meme, but sometimes some of these memes have some truth to them. There's this picture of a dude digging for gold, right? And then there's somebody who took a shortcut, right? The guy digging for gold says this is taking too long and turns around. And you don't, and then it freezes and it says, you never know, like, you never know how close you are to the finish line because you get tired or something like that. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, bro, one capstone, like, you was going in and you was like, you probably like trying to figure out. After a while, you probably didn't even talk to these people no more because no one's telling you anything. So you're just taking classes. You know what I'm saying? But damn, one class. I'd be pissed too. Because
one capstone.
Wow.
Yeah, my mind was blown, but here's the thing too, right? I feel like everything happens for a reason at the right moment, right? If I would have tried to do this 2-3 years ago, I don't think that I was in the right space financially to be able to even go back and take that capstone class. Because that's one thing. College tuition has quadrupled since I went to school originally in 2009.
Tell my kids that. Tell my kids.
That's
Like,
just
I will
tell them.
This is a clip right here. We're going to use this. Okay. Tuition is not a game. You don't play with that kind of money.
It's insane. I mean, $1,500 for one credit. I mean that the amount of money, and then Northeastern was the affordable school when I went to college.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Like, that's the spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
What? Oh my God, we're clipping that. Big shout out to everybody listening to just because, man, they don't listen. Anyways, looking back now, yeah. Do you think going back to school later in life actually gave you an advantage creativity because of the experiences you already carried with you?
Absolutely. And, the capstone class that I ended up taking really, really helped me kind of frame my thinking around who I am. Right. So part of the portfolio class, the capstone class I was taking, we had to make a portfolio based on our life experiences that we thought were relevant to college level classes, right?
Yeah.
So we did an autobiographical statement. We kind of just talked about all the experiences we've had in our life, a chronological record of everything we've been through from birth all the way till now, right? And really, when you see that on paper, right, 36 years of life, all of the different places and people that I've been, that was really eye-opening for me because it was like, I'm not a dancer. I'm not just a singer. I'm not just a mom. I'm not just a bartender. I'm so many things, but all of them kind of lead back to these same two things, which are creativity, right? Everything I do releases to creativity, and heart, and that's as a mom, I feel like that's what you want to teach your kids more than anything, is to use their heart. And what's the best way to teach is to show them by example. So is it hard to put your heart out there, put your words out there, put your life story out there and hope people aren't going to judge you for it? Of course it is. But at the same time, it's so powerful, to be honest with yourself and the world about who you are and the things you've been through.
One of your recent blogs posts, you talk about the risk of choosing yourself. I see that's where we're going right now. That phrase usually stands out. And what does choosing yourself look like today compared to like 10 years ago? Because I feel like 10 years ago, you're just protecting your peace. The fuck is that? I don't know why kids say that, but whatever. They saying that. I'm like, bro, you don't even got a phone bill. Like, but anyways,
right. What are you so stressed about?
What the hell are you Stop trying to get so many numbers and putting yourself in that position. But whatever, they don't want to listen to daddy, right? Or that guy. The risk of choosing yourself. Well, 10 years ago compared to now, what does choosing yourself look like?
Sure. So, 10 years ago, I would have said kind of like what you were saying, now choosing yourself is, cutting off people that, don't give you positivity and, kind of giving yourself space. And now I would say something the complete opposite. I think for me, the choosing yourself is doing what feels right to you, right? So for me, being there for people, listening to people, hearing other people's perspectives, giving other people my perspective and letting that kind of shape myself, that to me, is choosing myself. That's empowering for me. Sitting down and having this conversation with you right now, that's not something I would have done 10 years ago because I think I would have been more worried, right? How are people going to perceive it? What if, someone in my family hears it and doesn't like what I have to say?
Yeah.
But now I'm choosing me, I'm looking at it and saying, I love them and they know I love them.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people that are going to have opinions, but at the end of the day, I know that for me, being honest with myself and my story and putting it out there makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really having that perspective now as a 36-year-old mom of two that, yes, I have to take care of getting dinner ready. And yes, I have to take care of making sure, Maddie has all her dance recital stuff ready and all of the things that come with being a mom and being a partner, right, to my husband and being a worker out in the environment in the world. But also it's important to take the time to do things that make you happy because you can't be productive in all those other areas of your life if you're not doing what makes you happy. And I think I've finally gotten to the point now where I can say, like, I'm not scared to choose myself. And the risk, I think, and the reason why I use the word risk is because it feels like a risk because you're so scared of how people are going to perceive it, right?
Yeah,
when you do start to do the things that make you
away.
happy.
Yeah, that worry doesn't go away. It's just, but, I'm kind of loud when I choose myself. So I'm like, yo, if y'all don't like it, like, it's whatever. But I'm gonna probably like, as something like a pet peeve of mine. Like, I'm really quick to be like, whatever. But then I got to give them a whole timeline of why it's like that. Like, I know why I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? And I know it's still gonna happen. But like, whatever. But anyways, maybe I'm not saying it to that. I do want to choose myself. Oh my God, I do want to choose myself. But then there's these other people that can't choose for themselves. And I'm like, bro, like, tie your shoes. But anyways, no, I'm telling you right now, I don't even know if I need a vacation or something. I don't know. But anyways, you probably can see it. You're like, this dude's stressed out. But anyways, did anyone in your life?
That's just parenting.
Parenting, oh my God. Oh.
All the good stress.
But it's good. It's a good stress. It's a good stress.
Yeah.
I just want people to understand that regardless of what it is or what it looks like, it's a good stress because at the end of the day, they're alive. They've learned their lessons. And, I lost sleep. Nothing crazy. You know what I mean? It's just
right.
regular stuff. Did anyone in your life question your decision to pursue music? Maybe even question education? Maybe even question personal growth, all of it at the same time. And how do you stay focused when the timing didn't make sense on paper?
So I've had a lot of experiences where people have maybe thought that I didn't belong, right? I know my mom did not think I was ready to be a mom at 19, right? There's so many different moments in my life where people have looked in and said, I don't know if you can do that, right? I don't feel like music and dance has been one of them. I've always kind of lived in that dance music world. I think this is something people expected me to do way earlier, right?
Okay.
I think most of my friends and family members who knew me growing up, like I was voted in high school most likely to be on a reality TV show because, my personality was just very out there and energetic and, like not afraid to be me and, put my poetry out there, like one of the poems that is going to end up being on my album that comes out in September was actually from a poem that was put out in the Maine West Word back in 2007. So like I've always kind of been out there when it comes to like my artistry. But I think it surprises people the timing, right? Because they're like, okay, you have 2 kids, you work 3 jobs, you're one of the busiest people I know, and you're going to decide to do this now. But it's like, yeah, because now I have the energy. Now I feel the power, now I feel like I can, and that's the thing is that like everybody can have an opinion about you and about what's right, and about what your timeline looks like, but nobody feels it the way you do, and I think that's something that I've really sat in with myself, and I feel confident and good about it. So
You
it's been
know,
good.
I seen that it was almost like push it, push it, push it. I want to mention my husband, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
sure that I know I can't do half of the stuff without the other person saying, relax and just go do it. I got you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And people don't understand that sometimes you could do all this stuff by yourself. You're right. You built this whole thing by yourself, but somebody's gonna have to pick you up when you're tired, because no matter how fun it is, no matter how amused you are by it, how much happiness there is an expectation. There's comparisons that you do that they don't know that you're doing to yourself. You're trying to figure this out, and there's a whole bunch of research you're doing, and there's no one there. There's no one there except that one person that says, "Bro, what are you doing?" Right? How has that relationship have? Because I'm thinking to myself, right? Let's not get cliche. You just mentioned that there was a relationship with your son's person, right? We'll call him that. The daughter is a different person, right? I got four of them, so I already know. I'm out here bugging out, right? I don't know. I tell my friends all the time, don't be like me, right? So that's a different life. That's a different life. Something probably even your son had to get adjusted to seeing,
Hmm.
because there's a love for a dad, even if he's there or not, from a son, that is ridiculous, and it could come with an ego trip. It could come whatever. I've seen this all the time. I've seen it for myself as well. But then to seeing like someone who is standing by you, standing by your little sis, pushing your mom to be the better self. You don't see that on the other side, bro. Like, and I don't want to convince you. I just want to show you, because a lot of that comes into place. A lot of people don't understand that. Like, I'm in this situation, and one of my kids, one of my first wives, right? Because I got a back history, right? It will always say, like, you got everything you have because you had someone there for you. And I'm like, how do you make that a negative thing?
Yeah, right.
Like, find yourself someone, or realize that, somebody loved me, right? Like, but I can't change that about you, because you've been the same for like, we have like everything changed, and you're still the same person when it comes to seeing things in a selfish way. But I have everything because someone saw potential in me. Well, our history says you saw nothing in me, and I don't even have to like compare them two side by side, because that's bad in a relationship as we grow up and see and know. But that partner you got, shout out to him, because you are putting yourself out there, that of course years ago, anybody you was with, if you put yourself out there, your name called, you're this, you're that, whatever. What are you trying to do? Who the hell's that online? Whatever, right? The insecurities are crazy. But when you got
Well, and
that,
it's funny that you bring that up because, my husband and I have been together since 6 months after I had my son. So when I was pregnant with my son, I found out that his father was not faithful.
mm,
Um, and that was a very hard thing for me, because you can imagine being 19 years old. I thought that this was my forever person. Like I told you, my parents, were together for forever. I kind of thought that's how it went, and it wasn't how it was going to go for me. And my only previous relationship prior before that was very toxic and unhealthy. So I didn't have a lot of perspective there, but I knew I wasn't going to be cheated on. I knew that that was not for me. And so right away, I was just like, we are both going to be amazing parents, and we're going to co-parent together, and it's going to be great, but we can't be in intimate relationship anymore. And that was hard, but it was the best decision we ever made. Absolutely. And then 6 months later, I met my husband, and we've been together ever since. And we've lived a lot of life together, a lot of life. You know, he was with me from the bartending and the going to school and the running around and
That's a
the,
lot of life.
finding myself in my 20s, to really growing into myself in my 30s, and then we had our daughter together in 2020. And, it has led to a lot of things, like you said, like my, my husband did have some insecurities back when
Hey,
we
we
first
got
got
him,
together.
man.
So
We
did
got
I.
him. We
You know
got
what
the
I mean? So
chick.
did I.
We got the chick
Yeah.
of our dreams. What the fuck we doing? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, like,
Yeah. And me too, because I had a lot of trust issues given that my
yeah.
son's father had cheated on me and my relationship before that was very unhealthy. So I came with some suitcases, man. I brought some
Oh,
suitcases
you
into
brought
this 17-year
suitcases?
relationship.
Ah, damn, you beat me to it.
I did. And I unpacked them and he was like, I'm not so sure. And I was like, I'm staying. And he was like, all right, cool. I'm going to help you fold,
Okay.
And
Oh,
so
nice, nice.
that's
I
kind
had
of
to
how it
fold
was,
myself.
and he's such a different human than me. Like he has had so many life experiences that I have not had, and he really taught me appreciation for my family, and the people in my life, regardless of the addictions, regardless of the family drama. I know that I'm so lucky to have my people, and he was the person who taught me that. And I think a lot when you see my first album released in September, a lot of the music, a lot of the songs come from a place of that knowledge. And I didn't have that until I started dating him. So without him, I don't think I would be in this place that I'm at with my music. So I'm very grateful.
Big shout out to him, man. I had to do it, man. I was like, bro, there's a backbone somewhere. You know what I'm saying? There's a backbone.
Yeah, he is the backbone, that's for sure.
So we'll lead right back into Still Here. I want to reintroduce it here, take a little break, and then we'll get into a few more questions out. This is Jennifer Kropke. I'm gonna mess it up forever. I'm not gonna be the only one. I'm telling you. This
Oh, I
is
know.
Still Here on QSJRadio.com.
I learned how to disappear before I knew what leaving meant. How to step outside my body when the air felt permanent. Trusting out like paper hands that didn't feel like home. Something in me folded inward, left the rest of me alone. Closets full of breathing dark, secrets pressed behind my teeth. I carried what I didn't choose like it belonged to me. Stillness like a language, freezing like a prayer. The body knows the exit when the mind can't bear. I thought it was my fault.
When people
for
hear
going
Still Here,
quiet.
what do you hope that they take away from it? And
Going still.
if they're faced with their own struggles, setbacks, or their moment of survival?
I want them to know that it's okay to not feel good. That it's okay to to be scared, to feel uncomfortable. But it's also okay to know that there's another side to that. Um, so it's okay to have these negative feelings, but you don't have to feel them for forever.
A lot of independent artists feel like they're starting too late, right? You've built a career while balancing a family, education, creativity. You had to get mom to go in the attic and you couldn't go by yourself because there's bugs. So she helped you
Absolutely not.
and with you. What would you say to someone, especially because I know it feels good now. I know it feels good to let it all out, to do these things, to put music out, to do interviews. Someone waiting for the perfect moment before pursuing their dream. What would you say to them?
I would say that the perfect moment is the moment that feels right to you. I think I think I still kind of have those feelings a little bit of like, oh, I wish I would have done this sooner, or I wish I would have, done this and that and the other. But I also feel like I've never had the mindset that I have right now until now. So I would say to anyone out there who's, thinking about a dream or pursuing a dream or scared that maybe they're going to be starting too late, it's never too late. It's only too late if you never try. So you just got to give it a shot.
Yeah, motherhood has been something of a strong impact in this conversation. But what has it taught you about creativity that you don't think you've learned any other way?
It's definitely taught me how to multitask. That's for sure. It's taught me patience, lots of patience, right? And I think that's something huge that comes into releasing your music, right? You have to wait for those streaming numbers to come in. You have to really push yourself on social media. There's a lot that goes into releasing music other than just making the song, but actually like getting it out there to be heard, right? And the patience, that I've learned from being a mother is something that is so important, because I think that's, as an artist, you want everyone to just hear it right away, right? Like, oh, I've heard the Endless Powers of Me a trillion times. I'm tired of hearing it by this point, right? Because I've played it so many times for myself. But for a lot of people, it's their first time hearing it, right? And it's impactful, and they feel something. And I think that's what my children taught me, that those gratifying moments sometimes just take a little bit more patience, and that's okay.
Fuck them kids. I'm telling you, I'm telling you right now, I don't care. No, let me stop. Let me stop. I had to get that gap out so I didn't get in the clip. Anyways, if you could sit down, this is a big one. The version of Jennifer who wrote Still Here, the poem version, what do you tell her?
That it's not forever, that you're not, who you are right now isn't who you are, right? Just because it might be who you are right now, right? But your experiences don't define you. They just give you perspective. That doesn't define who you are. Only you can do that. And I think it took me, until my 30s to really realize that. For a long time, I thought, oh, I went through this, I went through that, I went through this, and that's who I am now, right? But that's not who I was. Those were just experiences that I went through, and I was sitting in those feelings and not willing to walk out of that door and move on to the next one. So that's what I would tell little me. I would tell her that there's lots more doors to open. You don't got to sit in this room for forever.
What's next? After Still Here, which is released, where do you see your music and creative journey heading over maybe this next year? Because I'm telling you, I'm ready for the Christmas album already. Like, if you make a Christmas song, send it, because I'm one of them Christmas guys. So, but anyways, what's next? What's going on?
My next song that I'm releasing is totally left field compared to the first two releases. It's called My Shame. It's another song that I wrote from a poem that I made when I was 16. This is about that toxic first boyfriend I was telling you about. That's where these lyrics came from. So there's a little bit more anger here, a little bit more grit. I also wanted it to sound like the music I was listening to at that time. So back in, 2006, 2007, it was all about Hawthorne Heights and Fall Out Boy and all of this like emo rock-esque music, like Avril Lavigne, Paramore, that kind of vibe. So this song is very much less alt, piano ballad and rock, and more like emo rock alternative. It sounds very 2000 coded.
Okay.
But the lyrics are that same vibe. And I feel like that's kind of where my music is going, right? All of the lyrics you're going to hear, all of the songs you're going to hear come from that same place of artistry, poeticness, and metaphors, right? But the style of each song is so different than the last. So I want people to know that I'm not one bubble, right? If you listen to my first couple of singles and you're like, this isn't really my style of music, keep listening, because the third song, the fourth song, the fifth song, the album, when it comes out in September, honestly, when I was putting it together for my distributor process, I didn't even know what category to put it in, because
Wow.
each song is so different, right? I'm like, well, this one's pop, this one's kind of, EDM, this one's so. I would just say be willing to go on the journey with me, because each song is so different, but it all connects back to that same idea of inherited weather, which is the name of my album that's coming out in September.
Inherited weather.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we just getting deep. Big shot. We just got. Oh my God. That sounds fire.
Thank you.
Inherited
Yeah.
weather. Bro. I can only imagine that deepness. Like when the releases will get you back on for the promo, if that's okay with you.
Oh, yes, I will be here.
And then, yeah, we'll get to the name of that. I'm going to ask some rapid questions, something really crazy, you know what I'm saying? Just to get to know you off the music, off the parenting, off the education, which is like, what else can there be, right? Coffee or tea during the creative session?
Always coffee.
Yo, I didn't even drink my coffee yet. I better hurry up. I got a white wife, and if I don't drink the coffee, it's a wrap. Dance studio or recording studio? Which one is?
Ooh,
Mm.
ooh, recording studio. I can dance in there.
Morning creativity or midnight inspiration?
Morning creativity. I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock every day.
Oh, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I can't help it. I got it from my dad. He's a military guy.
Oh, shout out to Pops, bro. Shout out to Props. One album everyone should hear. What do you think?
Oh, one album everyone should hear. I have been listening to a lot of Fauzia. Fouzia. Fauzia. She has a stripped album, Bad Dreams. I highly, highly recommend every song on that album.
What is your biggest lesson from going back to college?
Don't be afraid to do it. Just do it.
One word that describes this chapter of your life.
Resilience.
Shout out to the Uncrustables in the back. Big shout out to everybody listening. Tune in to QSJRadio.com. This has been Jennifer Kropke, straight out of the Midwest. Okay. Killed it. Has a new song out called Still Here. You can see that on Spotify and many places. You also have a website, jenniferkropke.com. All the information you guys will see in the description. And of course, whoever's in the chat, you're already there. The blog, is it something still going? Is it something very personal to you that you still want? There's also something I saw that you're also part of, like a foundation or something that gives back to can you talk to us about that?
Sure. The blog writing is going to continue up until my album release. So the blog kind of stemmed from the album, Inherited Weather. I kind of just wanted to talk about how I got to the album. And so I'm kind of just writing something weekly related to something that inspired a piece of the album, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that will continue through September. I do a lot of work outside of just my music. I work for a nonprofit childcare center, doing admin work for them. I also work with a production company called Barry Edwards Production, LLC. Barry Edwards, who worked with Dick Clark from Dick Clark America's Bandstand back in the day. He runs an awesome production company. We're working on a kids television show that we're hoping is going to be released next year. And then I also work with a nonprofit called Creative Studios down on the south side of Chicago. And they are amazing. We are actually working on creating a pop-up museum, a servant leaders pop-up museum in the Chicago Lawn neighborhood, to kind of get kids to come out and learn about servant leadership, and see that anybody could be a servant leader. So yeah, I'm doing a lot, wearing a lot of hats.
So it's safe to know who you voted for, right?
Yeah. I don't think that's a question.
America. Wow.
And honestly, if I lose fans from that, I'm okay with it.
But it's
I'm
ridiculous.
100%
You know what I'm
okay with
saying?
it.
Because we fine. We good. Like, you can have
Right.
that. Like, what are we
Right.
talking about? Like,
Yeah.
you want... Anyways, Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time. You took a risk on us because, you know, we're part of a group, Facebook groups of people scamming people. And I hope that you understand that not everybody is a fucking scammer. And your music is outstanding. The way that you broke down how and why you use the tools that you do is amazing. And I'm hoping that someone will catch on to you so they can send you songs and you'd be like, so how do you feel about this? And then you'd be like, all right, let me try. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's definitely dope. And thank you so much. Hope the summer is going to be great. And if anything comes up, just hit us up because we're ready to find out what's going on. Next time you release a single without letting us know, I'm gonna get mad. But
Okay. Well, I'll remember that. I'll put you on my reminders list. I'll send it out. And honestly, My Shame comes out in July, but I'll send you the file early so you can get an early list.
okay, yeah, definitely got you. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on QSJ Radio.
Yes. Thank you. Have a great day.